Hi, everyone. Carmine Denisco here on the Launch Pad. We are broadcasting on the Launch Network. This is our eighth season of the Launch Pad, and we are moving right along. It's already the end of November. Well, just before Thanksgiving. It's gone really quick for 2025. If you're listening to this in real time, catching up with us as the shows come out. Thank you so much for following along. If you're listening at some point in the future, I welcome you to the show. And just letting you know, yeah, so we're moving right along. It's November 24th or something around there. I forget exactly the date, but it's the end of November. And we're about to embark on Thanksgiving here in the U.S. And it's been going on. I hail from Florida, just outside of Tampa in Clearwater, Florida. So as the holidays start coming around, it gets a little odd because the rest of the country or most of the country is cold, but we're still at 80 degrees. So it's pretty cool that way. I love the warm weather and glad to be down here in the Sunshine State. So I want to get real quick, get started on today's show. It's not going to be too long. As the holidays come rolling around, it's harder to get guests. They're usually traveling and busy, and I understand, no doubt about it. Even myself, I'm actually broadcasting here or recording on a Saturday here in the office just because during the week it's hard to get into the studio here. We have a studio on site here in the office. But because we have so many people coming in and out, the studio is quiet, but it's hard to get time where somebody's not looking for us. So yeah, I come in on a Saturday, bringing a couple crew with us, and we record and get the show done. So all cool stuff. If any of you listening or just touching base, please send us a note. Send us any kind of feedback. We would love to hear how you feel about the show. And of course, any questions you have, we kind of base our show sometimes off of questions and feedback that we get. We'll bring on guests if we don't have the expertise in house. We bring on guests anyway because we have some great guests that usually want to come on, or we touch base with that shows, and I say, oh, you got to come on the show. But with questions that we field, if we can't answer those questions to our, standards, we can bring some guests on that will help you. So if you have some questions, send them in. Let us know how we're doing. Make sure you subscribe to the show so you can get each episode as it is released. Okay, so for today, we had several questions over the last couple segments. We've been talking about selling products. This time of year, we always try to push those sales and how to get our listeners, if they do have product, if they do have inventory, how they can get some sales and really rotate their stock, rotate their inventory coming up on the new year where they might be placing a new order and moving product along. So we always try to help in that sense. We throw in and sprinkle some other educational stuff in there, but sales are so important towards the end of the year for many reasons. They're important all year round. Don't get me wrong, but you always want to close the year off strong, so you feel good about going into the following year, and you can plan proportionately for how things go. And then over time, hey, last December, last November, last October, we sold double. We sold 30% more. So you know what to order and how to start working on that. Numbers are very important. Knowing your product, knowing your inventory, knowing your percentage, what you're bringing in, your landed costs, all that is so important to know. So very, very important to know your numbers as you go into the end of the year. So we had several questions come in on packaging. Now, they all didn't really relate to exactly packaging, but they did relate to it, to that, to the packaging end game. So, we had some questions come in about QR codes. We had some questions that came in where they should get barcode labels, where they should put them on. We had questions that come in about Proposition 65 out in California, SB 54 out in California. has some certain specific requirements on packaging and on products other than the rest of the country. So if you do live out in California, it's not a deterrent. It's fairly simple to go through those rules. California just has some specific rules, like their emissions on their cars and things like that. So we had some questions come in, but to me, they're all related to the end game, selling your product. How should you package it? So we're going to just cover it real quick. I'm not going to go too far into packaging because it's a huge monster. I'm not an artistic type person. I don't really develop packaging. I can help with how the product might be packaged, and in the field of cost and packaging and shipping, how it should be packaged for retail sales as opposed to online sales and things like that. I can certainly help. But when it comes to the actual design and colors and fonts and pictures, it's just something that, I've seen tons of packages. I mean, if you look behind me, I have every product is packaged. I've seen thousands and thousands of products being packaged. So I kind of get an idea. But to put the colors together and the fonts and things like that, I'm just not that good with it. I don't know what it is. My brain just doesn't work that way. But we all like packaging. I mean, you go into a store and there are certain packages that probably catch your eye. Same as me. We'll be walking through and I'm looking in the aisle and boom, there. Oh, look at that. Look at that product. Look at that packaging. I'm currently working with a couple college students that are developing products, and we're getting to that point of developing some packaging ideas. And they're working with their marketing teams in the colleges, which is pretty cool, using those resources to help develop that stuff. So packaging is always, I think, one of the most important steps in the game of selling your product. Now, when I say that, let's step through a couple scenarios. So a lot of times when we're developing a product or manufacturing a product with our clients here at Earmark Sourcing, there's a big question is, when should we start developing the packaging design? When should we start developing that design? But the first question we ask, and you should ask yourself if you're developing packaging, and some of you that are listening are probably well past this, so I apologize if this is a little below where you are in the segments, in the sequence of developing your product. You might be selling and you're like, oh man, I don't need to listen to this. I got my packaging done. Sorry about that. I just want to kind of step through it for our listeners that may need this information. It's very important. So I'll get to some other stuff that might help in a little bit. So as you're manufacturing your product, as you're designing your product, as you're developing it, you're thinking about packaging, and it's very important to do that. And it's actually really cool that you are. So the first thing you really want to do is you have to decide, where am I going to sell this product? Now, everyone, including myself, I'm always hoping that I get my product into big box stores, retail stores. Boom. Here's my product. And, Target calls and says they want my product. Very, 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 and did I say very seldom that happens. And I don't want to be a roadblock or a deterrent. It's just that most buyers for big box stores, they really won't take a chance on our product unless we can say, hey, listen, we're selling this thing like gangbusters, or, we ordered 2,000 units. I sold out in 2 months, or I sold out in a month. I saved a few samples. Here's one. And I could show them the data that we sold it. So when you're thinking about developing your product and manufacturing, I want you to know two things. One, that first order that you order or that you place, order the smallest amount possible. And they call it MOQ, minimum order quantity. Now, if the minimum order quantity is a little higher than you really feel comfortable doing, most likely you can negotiate that with the factory. and if they're standing firm, and they're really pushing back on you, it might be for some reason, and you might want to ask them, hey, listen, guys, why can't we lower this MOQ? I really don't want to order 5,000 units or whatever that is. Depending on the product here, and if you're going to package it, now I'm going back and forth, just jumping around here. A lot of times, you might get a product in, and it's maybe you don't have to package it in any sense. It's a giveaway, or you're giving it away. You're having golf outings, and you don't really need some super packaging. And you're like, hey, I'll take 5,000 of those. It's not a big deal. The reason I'm saying is be careful is for two reasons. There's always something to change on the first and sometimes even the second run of your product. That doesn't mean that the product doesn't work. And, sometimes we have problems, guys. We've developed products here. It happens that there's always unforeseen things. So when you get your product, there may be some small item or something that is just not operating to 100%. Okay. And it drives you crazy. You might get a few returns on it, but in all, the product works. It does what it's supposed to do, but it could be better. Okay. Now, if you order 10,000 units or 5,000 units and you're selling, 10 a day, you're going to have that product for a while, and it's going to piss you off. You're going to be thinking about it. You might get a couple bad reviews if you're selling on Amazon. So the trick would be is that if you ordered 1,000 or 500, 500 is a little low for almost any product. If you ordered 1,000 or 2,000 instead of 5,000 or 10,000, you're going to go through that inventory faster. And the next order, you will repair, you will update, you will tweak any little problems in the product itself. So that's why you want to stick with the lowest MOQ you can. Now, there are some products that possibly the factory was working on for over a year. They did a huge amount of work on your product to get it to work. You had your engineers here in the US, or you had your engineers wherever you are in the world working on your product. Then you sent those drawings off, those CAD files off to the factory, but they weren't factory ready. They weren't ready for manufacturing. And the factory engineers had to work on your product. Now, while they were working on it, they found another problem, or they found an issue, and they made the changes to that. They sent you a sample, made some changes to that. And all of a sudden, 8 months goes by, 10 months goes by, a year goes by, and those engineers at the factory have been working on your product. Now, that MOQ, that minimum order quantity may be a little higher because the amount of time that they had to put in. So those are the things that could drive a higher MOQ. Again, most of the factories that we work with here at Earmark, we can negotiate those minimum orders, but we don't really beat our factory engineers up, our factories up, because we appreciate the work they do for us. So if we say, hey, can you guys do 1,000 units? And they want 5,000. Can you guys do 1,000? And they say, listen, that's really low. Can we do 1,500? That's not a bad negotiating number. So 1,500 is better than 5,000. So my thing about it is that we want to order the smallest amount possible. There are some, jobs that require 5,000 units. It might be $1 a piece. It could be 10 cents a piece. So 5,000 isn't really that big a deal. They're low cost, high volume products. So 5,000 isn't a big deal. But if they're higher cost, and lower volume product, it could get expensive. So hopefully I didn't jump around too much. Yeah. So again, the reason being is that I'm talking about this is that there are going to be changes. I think I said it earlier, very seldom you have a product that you get the first run and you get the packaging done and you have really zero tweaks, zero changes, zero updates, which would be really cool. And it has happened, but very, 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 very seldom that happens. And it's not an issue. It's not a problem because you have thought about it and you're going to get those changes and tweaks done on the next one. Again, I always go back to the iPhone. 17 versions of the iPhone, It's okay to have changes, to have updates, to have different versions. People want to see growth. They want to see changes. They want to see maybe that color that no one liked. You chose some kind of purple or some kind of green, and you're like, man, I'm just getting some bad feedback on that green. Let's change the color, and then you get good feedback. So it's okay to have change. People love change. Uh, they don't like to change themselves as much, but they like to see change. So that's what the MOQ is. So keep the MOQ as low as possible. So when you're first packaging your product, most likely that first order, unless you got an order from a retailer, and that's why you're placing the manufacturing order, which again is very seldom, that first order, that low MOQ, is not going to go into retail. I don't care if you get your product into retail. The product that you're having delivered is not going into retail. It's not. Now, you're going to give some away as samples. You're going to give some away to buyers. You give them to your friends and neighbors to test. So you don't really want to spend too much money on packaging because, again, what did we say earlier? It's going to change. Not only is it going to change, but most of the people that buy your product have already bought it. They're not buying it because of the packaging. So your first order, my recommendation is it's very minimalistic. It could be a white box. It has the name of your product on it. Now, if you're selling on Amazon, if you're going to sell on your website, if you're going to sell to, different TikTok shop, if you're going to go on Instagram, things like that, you may want to have some markings on that white box to let you know or to make it easier for the product to sell. So let me give you an example. You're going to sell your product on Amazon. You order 2,000 units. It's coming. I'm just going to put it in a white box because I'm selling on Amazon. I'm going to make it look good. It's going to have great pictures, but no one cares how it's delivered to me or how it's delivered to the final end user, your customer who bought the product. They're going on Amazon. They're looking at the pictures of your product. Wow, that thing's really cool. And they're clicking buy it. So you have it delivered from your factory in a white box. It doesn't matter. White box, awesome. So you're going to have the name of your product maybe on the white box. What I would do is I would get Amazon's your product number for Amazon. They call it an ASIN. So it's kind of like a serial number. It's kind of like a barcode, but it's for an Amazon product. So Amazon, when your product goes into the Amazon warehouse, they scan it, and they puts it into inventory. And then when somebody buys it, the system knows where your product is by that barcode. Now, a lot of times when you have inventory, you have to print out what they call stickers, ASIN stickers, because you can't send your product in without it being marked, without the box itself having some kind of markings. So the Amazon system, the Amazon computers know not only that your product came into inventory, we received 20 units in this carton and they go into inventory, but also when your product goes not only out of inventory, but when the system grabs it from the bins and does a pick and pack, they call it. So the box goes, I bought something on Amazon. Your product was one of them. The robots go out, boom, 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 or the people go out and the bin is located in AC3. Okay, AC3, you grab it and it gets scanned and it comes out of inventory because it read the ASIN barcode. So if you're going to sell on Amazon, so you don't have to put those stickers on every box when it comes to you, you might want to have that ASIN printed on the white box already. Even if you don't sell it on Amazon, it's not going to hurt anything that number is on there. So you're selling off your website. It has an Amazon ASIN number. Who cares? No one knows, what's that number stands for. It doesn't matter. But in order to save you time, if you're going to Amazon with some of your product, have that on there. So that's something, you want to do some shortcuts. If you're going to sell on Amazon, if you're going to sell off your website, you can have different things. Now, if you go to retail with your product, So let's go back. So there's a couple of different ways now to sell. You're selling on Amazon. You could sell your product on your website. And I'm just going to throw a few out there. You can sell on Instagram. You can sell on TikTok. So all of those will require the same basic packaging, a white box or a red box, black box. What I mean is you don't have to spend money on retail ready packaging if you don't want to. And I recommend that you don't if you're selling on some of these sites, because it's a lot less cost and you can manipulate it very well for your particular needs. So having that Amazon ASIN, maybe having a QR code, which was really cool sometimes. Maybe your product requires some kind of instruction on how to use it, or you want to give some instructions on different ways to use the product so they get the best bang for the buck out of it. They get the best use out of it. So you're like, here, thank you for purchasing my product. Please scan these QR codes for videos on the best way to utilize it. Or here's a video on how to clean it. So you can use QR codes printed on the box to inform your clients, to give them the best value of the product. There's no reason to do that. And it doesn't really cost anything. You have to package your product. So use the basic packaging, but throw a QR code on there. Throw that ASIN number on if you're going to Amazon. I, for one, don't really sell products on Amazon because I think it's just a monster. I have never really been successful, though I know people that are super successful on Amazon, but they're very good and they spend hours and hours, or they have an army of people spending hours and hours running the ads, running different the updates on the listings and changing them around, or testing packaging and testing pictures. So, you obviously, people can be very, very successful on Amazon. I just don't have the worthwhile to do all of that work with these products. I would rather sell on other products like TikTok Shop or Instagram off of my own website, off of the Mercury Shopping website, things like that, just because it's a little bit easier, and you could drive a lot more traffic. So again, we go back to, if you're going to sell on Amazon, that's awesome. If you're going to sell on TikTok Shop, if you're going to sell on Instagram, if you're going to sell off your own website or other websites, the Mercury Shopping site, you just need some basic packaging with a few other things. Think about what you want to put on there. Put the name of your product. Like I said, put the QR code, maybe the Amazon ASIN if you're selling on Amazon, because you know what? They're printing on the product. They're printing on the box. So just give them that artwork and say, here, print this, and it'll get printed. But again, you're only ordering a certain amount. So if you forget something, or in the interim, you say, hey, oh man, this website wants to sell my product, but I have to add this number to it. I have to add a serial number to it, or I have to add a part number to it, a stock number to it. Okay, great, because the next order, you can add that stock number. You can add whatever they wanted to it, because obviously if they're going to sell it or they're going to buy from you as a wholesaler, they're going to purchase a certain amount. So you don't mind doing that. And even if it didn't work, no one that's purchasing your product, it cares about that number. They care about the product. So that's the first things that I would talk about. Selling online, so basic packaging. Don't go crazy with the artwork. It's very expensive. Standard box or package, or, again, there's a lot of ways to package your product. I'm just talking about basic stuff, to get by with online sales for your first order. Okay. So I'm not talking about the fifth order or sixth order, or, I'm talking about your first or second order, making those changes, making those updates, saving money. Knowing what works and what doesn't is very important, because while you're selling, you might be getting feedback from people. Hey, listen, this box, I got it and it was ripped apart. It was ripped open and some of the parts fell out, because again, I don't know what product you have. So you really got to think about how you package it, what could happen, what kind of components are part of your product, and how it's going to get to the client safely. So So then we go into packaging for maybe HSN, QVC, online shopping centers that are right in the middle to me between online sales and retail shopping. Now, you could do two things. You could, you have companies like Knock that puts their product, that puts your product knocking, that puts your products on Good Day America, Good Day Tampa Bay, Good Day, all of the big shops or TV shows that during the show, they put up products, it's pretty cool. So Good Morning America, Today Show, all of those shows at some point have a segment where they have products and they're showing the coolest, latest, and greatest stuff. Now, they very seldom show the packaging, if you notice, but they might require some type of packaging. Those are things that you'll talk about with them. QVC, HSN, they may require good packaging. They may not require retail ready packaging, that level. I have seen where sometimes they require some type of retail ready packaging, but they're most importantly, the packaging has to work and keep the product safe. They have a thing, what's called is a drop test. They go up 6 feet and they drop your product. They drop it and they want to make sure nothing gets damaged. They want to make sure the package stays intact and that the product is still going to be usable, deliverable, and then you'll be happy. So they have a lot of different types of packaging requirements as you go down the line for different ways or different venues of selling your product. So QVC, HSN, most likely they're going to order a larger quantity. So you might have inventory though. So you might have 1,000 units left. You might have 2,000 units left and you're getting into HSN or QVC and they go, hey, listen, we want 1,000 units. We want them sent to our warehouse. But before that happens, they're going to ask you to send a few pieces. They're going to look at the packaging, see what's on there. They're going to do a drop test. They may come back to you and said, hey, listen, we like the product, but we can't use your packaging. We have certain requirements, and these are the requirements for the packaging. So you might have to order boxes. It's again, this is where it comes in that, if you had already done the packaging and packaged 5,000 units because you didn't keep the MOQ low and HSN or QVC came back to you and their requirements didn't fit in how you had the packaging done, you're going to have to replace the boxes anyway. So you could have spent all that money on retail ready packaging and then HSN or QVC comes back and wants you to change some of that packaging. So that's why start off with the lowest cost, lowest volume, lowest MOQ with the lowest cost packaging. So you can always go up. You can always make those changes fast. You can, hey, I have 1,000 units, but they're in white boxes. Is that okay? Well, send us one. Let me see. You might be able to just put a sticker on the box. Who knows? You want to get back, you want to get that inventory to QVC or HSN as quickly as possible. And it could be where they allow you to just make some small changes, or you order the boxes and you switch it out. It happens all the time. I know inventors and product guys that, they spend a week switching out boxes. It happens, but you're getting into HSN or QVC. So that online and knocking Good Day America, the Today Show, they all are looking for products. You got to remember QVC and HSN, 24 hours they run. 24 hours a day, every day, selling products. Do you think they need product? Yes, they do. So remember, reach out to them if you have product. If you think that your product is a good fit for any of their platforms, they need product, guys. There's people out there that are looking for products. HSN, QVC, 24 hours a day. They are online live selling products. So they need a whole bunch of them. Your product might not fit into their demographic, but it doesn't hurt to put it up there. I've had products in HSN, QVC. Some of them sold like gangbusters. Some of them were duds. You just don't know what's going to happen. Real quick tip for HSN or QVC. They're great people to work with, but they're going to want more than you may want to supply to them. It's just kind of what happens. So try to negotiate that down. Give them at least amount possible, and for two reasons. One, if the product, if they say give us 1,000 units and you sell 800, you're getting that 200 back, okay, and you're refunding them for the 200 units that are left. Or, I mean, if it's sold, they might say, hey, listen, we want to run your product again. But they might not. They might have said, hey, we sold 800 units. We have 200 left. We're sending them to you. Where should we send them? You don't really want that because you're like, man, I just sold 1,000 units to QVC and now they want to return 200 units. So try to negotiate that down. The first airing, keep it a low number, because the other part is you want them to be able to say, hey, buy this thing, hurry up and call, hurry up and jump online because we sold out last time this product was on the show. So if you give them a small quantity, they're probably going to sell out, and they get to say those words on air, which really drives people to hurry up and buy your product. Little tip. I work with HSC and QVC all the time, HSN and QVC all the time. If you have some questions about that, again, reach out, send us a question or give us a shout at Earmark. Very specific products go on HSN or QVC, but they need a lot of them. So that's what I'm trying to say. If you're sitting back going, man, I don't know if my product good for that. Watch the show, see what they're selling, see if your product might fit in. If it does, let's reach out to them because they need products. Okay, so that's what those guys. The other thing, the last thing we're going to go to, and there's a lot of different ways. I'm skipping several ways to sell your product just because I've talked about that on previous shows. Going to talk a little bit about going to retail. Now, one is I want to let people know we have two big shows coming up. NHS Concept to Commerce. And if you have a product, you're going to want to probably go to this show. We're going to have buyers there. You can pitch your product to pros. Really cool show. It's out in Vegas, March 30th. It's the old National Hardware Show, but they switched it up. It's called Concept to Commerce. So now any products can go to the show. And also, if you're in the still in the invention stage, I should say, or you're in the prototype stage, or you're just looking to get to sequence, or you need investment money or something like that, you can come to the show and get a booth and talk about your product, show your product off. If you have a prototype or you have some components that are made, or you have a small quantity of product, come to the show. NHS Concept of Commerce, March 30th. Insane show. You got to go to this. The other one, the UIA has partnered with RangeMe. If you know RangeMe, they're an awesome platform for buyers and product sellers to join and work together with product. So we've partnered up with RangeMe, and we're having a show called Retail Innovation Summit. Now, this show is going to be for product owners and retail buyers. They're going to be in the same room. They're going to talk to you. You're going to set your product up. They're going to come around and you are going to pitch your product to buyers only. That's who's going to be there. I'm telling you, there's going to be buyers in the room and you will be talking to them, a lot of them. So we're going to do a little bit of education, what to do, how to talk to buyers, what to say to buyers prior. And then we are going to open the room up and the buyers are going to come in and talk to you as the product owner. And you will be talking about your product to potential buyers, people that are interested in your product. Now, that's going to be February 4th in Destin, Florida. So if you're interested in that, again, reach out. We're going to be posting all of these things. We're going to be pushing out emails. We'll be pushing email blasts. We'll be putting it on social media. So we're just getting this. It's just locked in. Friday, kind of the first time I'm really talking about it on air. So we have a couple shows. We also have the PGA show going on in Orlando in January, but that's a golf show and it's not open to the public. But and it's been sold out for months, kind of why I'm not mentioning it, but it's a really cool show. We love the PGA show. Next year, if you have a product, a golf product or pickleball product, you should really think about signing up for the PGA show. It's in January. It's in Orlando, Florida. But the two shows that are coming up, NHS Concept of Commerce, and then also the Retail Innovation with RangeMe partnering with the UIA, and that's February 4th. So real quick, retail. Retail's a whole new animal. If you're going to go for retail, here's the thing. Don't package your product for retail yet. The reason being, you could make your product or packaging look somewhat good, but almost every time, and I have introduced hundreds of products to retail buyers, great people. I love the buyers. They're under insane stress to find products for their catalogs, for their categories, for their stores, and they're looking for product. And I'm just going to give you an example. I went to Target. I showed the buyer 10 products. I said, here, I got these products, 10 of them. We were there for over an hour going through each product, the values and costs and things. Over an hour, probably more than that. I'm saying over an hour. So in the end, the buyer says to me, I like these 3, pulls them to the side. I said, okay, cool. He said, but they all need to be repackaged. So you have to know that you're probably going to repackage your product anyway to each store's specific requirements. Now, there will be requirements that are across the board the same. That's normal. You're going to have a barcode. My suggestion is you go to GS1, just type it in Google, GS1 barcodes, and get a barcode. All right, register, get that barcode. You don't really need it for selling online yourself. You don't need it for anything. Now, you might have it for Amazon, but you're going to use the ASIN number for Amazon. But you're going to need a barcode. So here's the other thing about barcodes. For each version of your product, for each variation, for each color, for each size, if there's any changes or any differences in your product, so if you're selling hats, and you have 6 different colors, you're going to need 6 different barcodes for those hats. Okay, now, if each of those colors has small, medium, and large, not only are you going to need 3 or 6 different barcodes for the 6 different colors, but now you're going to need 3 barcodes for each color, small, medium, and large. So it gets very confusing, and that's why you need a system like GS1 to not only get the barcodes, but also maintain those cards and categorize those codes so that you know what you have, what you need, and as you add another product into your system, you can just purchase another barcode, add it to your library of codes. Again, like most inventors, you're only going to need 1, maybe a few barcodes. But I just want you to know you should get a barcode. And in most cases, you have to get a barcode from a reputable company that sells and distributes barcodes. They will actually test that code. And if it comes up, you don't imagine sending in 30,000 units to Target. They're going to do a test. They love your product. You send in 30,000 units. You got it done in Korea. You had it shipped directly to their fulfillment center. They're going to distribute your product. It's awesome. You're super happy. And all of a sudden, it comes to the distribution center and they scan that barcode that you have. And you got it at El Cheapo barcodes because you didn't want to spend the money. And when they scan that barcode, it comes up in the system. That barcode is already in that system for a volleyball that they're selling in Target or some other product. You either going to take all that product back and possibly get your order canceled from Target, or you're going to have to pay somebody to re-barcode every item in their warehouse that you sent to them. And you're going to have to go to GS1 or you're going to have to get the barcode anyway. And man, I have seen it happen. You do not want that to happen. So try to get a reputable barcode company. We use GS1. They are a little bit more expensive, but they're recognized throughout the world, and we've never had a problem with them. So barcode is always important. You can still put QR codes on. You could still, doing so. If you're going to sell into Canada, You may have to need some French instructions or French on there, depending on what cities you're selling into Canada. You may have to do that. And then when you go into California, you might have to do something with SB 54 or Proposition 65, which isn't as scary as it sounds. I can tell you this, most likely your product is already ready to sell into California. If you're a California resident, it's probably all ready for Proposition 65. You just got to put the requirement on there. It's not as treacherous as people think. It sounds like it is, but in most cases, one, you don't have more than 10 employees in most cases, so it doesn't even affect you. Even though you want to be covered, you'll want to mark the packaging with Prop 65. It's fine, that, and also you want to go through the SB 54. Look those up. Yeah. So again, retail, whole different animal. Do not, if possible, I shouldn't say that. You guys, whatever you want to do, but my suggestion is, don't look to retail ready packaging yet until a retailer says they want your product. Super important. And then you'll send them, which they love. I think they love. You're going to send them the design of your packaging. Hey, when you place this order for this many units, this is what how I'm going to package it. You might even have one mocked up on a box and you send it to the buyer. And before you're doing this and they say, hey, this is good. Hey, can you change this word? Can you change this? Now they're working with you to get the packaging right for their store. Now, it's going to get to the point where you're going to be in multiple retailers possibly. That's okay, because in most times your box will already be retail proven. It's going to be vetted by retailers. Yeah, they may want a small little change, but if they want a small change for their particular store, man, they're going to buy a whole bunch from you. So if somebody, comes in and says, hey, we want 100,000 units for our big box store, but we want you to change this, you're going to go, no problem. I will make that change. So just to kind of close up, I went a little over more than I did because this is a huge subject, and I could talk for an entire show on any of these items that I hit on. I was just trying to do an overview, but as usual, I went over. So the retail side is great. Just hold off if you can on spending that money on the design, on the printing, on the 4-color copy, on the box, on the clamshell, because I could talk about the different types of packaging next. There are so many different ways to package your product that we could go on for a whole nother show. Depending on where you're going to sell your product when you first start out. Now that could change, but it's okay because again, you ordered the smallest quantity possible. You spent the least amount as possible on the packaging. And you are able to pivot and change that packaging because you're going to go through it much quicker. So for that next version, you can make those changes. So that's kind of it for the show today. I wanted to just go over a little bit of packaging. I know I jumped around a lot and you're going, man, Carmine, I don't even know what the hell you were talking about. But please listen to the podcast a couple of times if you don't get it. Send me a note if there's something, and I know that I probably confused some of you. So sorry about that. There's just so much to cover, and I just feel like I'm running out of time when I first even start. I know I waste a few times talking in the beginning, but if there's any questions you have, please reach out to us. I will help as much as possible. Think about going to those shows I talked about, the one in Vegas in March 30th, and also Destin, Florida, February 4th. They're going to be big, and these shows can get you introduced to buyers. There's no doubt about it. Let us know if you have some questions to that, and look for the announcements coming very soon. So for myself, Carmine Dinisco, I appreciate you listening as usual. Go on out to Google Play, iTunes, or wherever you get or consume your podcast material. Leave us a rating, a review, or send us a note. And I appreciate you listening. You all take care.